Hi there, folks. Alex Wiseman here. I'm coming to you because, well, we have a snow day. and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the social impact model because for our reading for week 5 of the CIE 407 Grant Writing and Fundraising and International Education Development class, you had some reading from the Bornstein book, How to Change the World, Social Entrepreneurs and the Power of New Ideas. And you had two chapters. One was specifically called The Role of the Social Entrepreneur, and the other one was looking at a particular program, and it was called a social entrepreneurial program, and it was called 1098 Childline. Well, one of the things that's unique about our book that we're reading, our Bornstein book that we're reading about social entrepreneurship, is that it shows that that ideas are good, and that having an idea of how we're going to make an impact and be entrepreneurial or innovative in a social impact kind of way is commendable, but actually making an impact is a little more difficult, and it requires a degree of planning. So when we talk about a social impact model, we're really talking about how do we establish a system for ensuring that whatever it is we're proposing we do, it has a measurable and locally directed and sustainable impact. So that's our goal. So I'm going to work through this. The social impact model is not something that I created. It's something that's out there. If you Google social impact model, you might find exactly what I'm going to present to you here. The spin that I'm going to give is that I'm going to explain the way that I approach it, which might be a little bit unique compared to some of the ways that other people approach it. So hopefully it's helpful. Now, if we overview the planning process, you'll remember that one of the things I had you do at the very beginning of our class was do a fundraising strategy, where you actually thought about what are you going to do as a group as you work through this semester doing your grant proposal. And I had you answer a couple of questions. We used a form as a guide that was specifically about fundraising strategies. It had you articulate your goal. It had you articulate your mission. It had you articulate what you wanted to do, who your population was, how much money it would cost. And then it had you articulate how you would actually achieve that. And that I gave you guys a hard time in class because what I wanted you to do was to actually make a kind of like a Gantt chart where you actually put together a list of the priority actions, like the activities that actually had to be accomplished, when they had to be accomplished by, so the deadlines, and then who, and like naming an individual who was responsible. And so I would love to encourage you to still do this. I'm going to put little stars by it because I think it's so important. Still do a Gantt chart and still plan to plan, and don't think just because that assignment's over that you don't need to do that anymore. That was an assignment, but it's more than that, right? It's something that helps you actually move forward through the whole process. So planning to plan is important. Thinking about how you're going to plan for your project is important. But what we're going to focus on today is this one right here, articulating a social impact model. Now, we're a little different than a lot of other people who do grant proposal writing and fundraising in that our field, comparative and international education, has an inherent ability to make a social impact. We are social entrepreneurs. Education is a social institution. It is something that impacts whole communities. And whether we're talking about health education or STEM education or technology and education, we're still talking about a social impact or social entrepreneurship type of activity. So we're going to articulate a social impact model, or I'm going to show you how you can do that. And what I suggest you do is, as you meet this week as a group, and I know that you will in the next 7 days, I'd like for you to think about working through some of this so that you understand what the social impact is. This isn't exactly what I'm asking you to do for the assignment, so don't confuse what I'm saying you could do here for the social impact model with the specific guidelines and instructions that I've given you for the assignments, because they are not the same. What I am saying is that you can use this as a group or a team process to articulate how whatever the project or program is that you're proposing makes a social impact, and how you and those who are involved with you on this project are social entrepreneurs. I think that's really important. I think that's kind of key to what we do in our field in general, and hopefully you will move forward in a way that makes sense. All right. And then things that you would follow up with afterwards are developing an implementation strategy. You're doing that as part of your proposal. Finalizing your plan and putting it into action. Well, in our class's case, your plan is to do a proposal, and putting the proposal into action would be submitting it to the grant making agency. And then, of course, I should put, I don't know how to, this is like a ray of sun here. This enduring social impact, right? This is what we're really going for. Making sure that there is some long-term benefit that is locally, controlled, and empowering individuals as well as communities, and really acting as a foundation for movement, growth, whatever. That's our goal. So let's just jump right into it. What is a social impact model? Well, here you've got it all laid out for you. And by the way, these slides are also available on, you can link to them through CourseSite. So don't feel that you have to write all this down. You can just print off the slide if you'd like. And I think that'll be helpful. And what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through some of these steps, and I'm going to ask you, if you were doing this as a project with your group, I'm going to ask you to think about how you would do that. Again, with the understanding that you should not confuse what we do here with the specific things I ask for your weekly assignments. This is something that is on top of that should help you. Well, the first thing that you have to do is you have to provide a concise description of your target social problem. And that will begin to clarify what your niche is, or niche, however you pronounce that word, right? Where your particular focus is, what your particular specialty is. Second would be mission, and I've harped on this enough in class, but this is a description of your purpose, including your target beneficiaries, activities, and expected outcomes. You've been through this a couple of times in terms of developing your mission. We've talked about this both in class and in other screencasts, so hopefully you have a mission at this point. If not, you should be thinking about how to develop one, and if you do have one, which I'm assuming you do, how does that contribute to social impact? 3, we'll be thinking about an operating model, which is a description of the way in which your activities work together to carry out your mission. So you've got multiple things that you'll be doing, and you've articulated them, or you will articulate those as objectives. And those objectives are tied to goals, which, remember, are more broadly stated things. So the objectives integrate or tie together or work together as part of the same plan to achieve particular goals. That is another way of thinking about your operating model. Next, we have social impact strategies. These are the major strategies that are identified in your plan, and again, we're borrowing this from business, but it is about social impact. The major strategies identified in your plan to further your mission and make progress towards your vision of success. Right? So what is your long-term goal? How do you know that you have achieved whatever it is you plan to achieve? This is a way of articulating what your strategies are. Now again, you will have articulated goals, and you do have a mission already. Right? So this is a way for you to think strategically, how do we achieve those goals? How are these objectives that we're developing working together to achieve those goals? That is strategy. Next, we've got organizational and program, or program, I'm going to have to fix that, performance indicators. In fact, that bugs me so much, I'm going to fix it right now so that I never have to see that again. Organizational and program performance indicators. These are units of measurement that assess the direct short-term results that relate to your capacity to carry out your work and your progress in implementing your social impact strategies. So the idea here is that this is much more, like your objectives, right? This would be mm, this would be like your objectives that you're developing for your assignments. These are actual indicators of performance. These are measurable in that way. Remember, we're using the SMART model for your objectives. So I don't know why that won't stick, but this is a way to do that. Next, social and economic impact indicators. These are units of measurement that assess your long-term progress toward your vision of success and the overall success of your hypothesis or your problem or your solution or whatever you want to call it. Right? So I'd like to point out, and maybe I should get rid of some of this ink so that it becomes super clear. Okay, or some of this ink, that you have two kinds of indicators. You have organizational and program performance, and you have social and economic impact. So think about that. When you're making your objectives, or when you're developing your indicators, you have some that are related to how your program is going to actually operate. You have some related to the impact that you're actually making out in the big wide world. Having each of these is really important, and so you should keep in mind how each of these contributes to your developing proposal. And then finally, you have your vision of success, which is a description of how the world will be different if you are ultimately successful in addressing a target social problem, and a description of your role in realizing that vision. All right, so this connects back to your mission. So this is the social impact model, broadly speaking. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pause here. I'm going to fix the ink that's on these slides, and we're going to come back and we're going to actually start working through each of these steps.